Hi guys, if you've watched my videos before, you may wonder why I don't have many videos of my racing. When I do, I have this strange contraption on my head. Well folks, that is because I mostly race in VR. There are many reasons for that, and I thought it was about time that I do a video on why I race in VR and what the benefits and drawbacks for doing so are. If I haven't put you off by the end, I'm also going to go through some options for PC virtual reality you might like to consider. So what do I consider some of the benefits of racing in VR? Now, the benefit closest to my heart is all about this space. I race in an understairs cupboard, and in doing so, I only really have space for a tiny little screen. I really don't have space for a gorgeous triple setup, and the 27-inch screen that I can fit into this space is only good enough for some casual Rocket League or Wreckfest. It's really not going to cut it for anything more serious than that, especially not if I want to feel immersed in my racing. Talking about immersion, another great benefit of VR is, unlike flat screens, it feels like you have actually been transported into the cockpit of your car. You can look around and see all the buttons, dials and switches and feel like you're a part of your environment. Want to look in your side mirrors? Well, what is more natural than turning your head to do so? Okay, so there are devices like Track IR that give you something similar for our 2D cousins, but it just isn't the same. You tend to have to exaggerate the movement, so you're moving a small amount to get a large amount of movement on a Track IR. It's not uncommon for someone's first experience in VR to be them trying to reach out and touch something only to be grabbing thin air. It makes you faster. Maybe. Okay, so this is a little white lie. It doesn't really make you faster, but it does help you with one of the fundamentals of motorsport, vision. It helps you because you can naturally look into the corners. You can look around the car for that one guy trying to take that hopeful dive. This all helps with your consistency and confidence, and the more confidence you have, the more you're likely to be able to extract from yourself. So I've only really labelled a few of the benefits there. I'm sure there are more. I'm going to move on to drawbacks now, because I don't really want to oversell VR. So isolation. Remember when we were talking about that lovely immersive experience where you feel like you're in the car? Well, that comes at a price. Even with the floating off-ear sound systems of the Index, I am almost completely oblivious to the outside world when I'm racing. Now, this is less of a problem with driving, as your hands are usually on a wheel. There are no flailing limbs to knock out your better half when he or she comes past. But if you have other responsibilities like pets or children, you have to take this into account. Are they going to wander into your cockpit space and then get bashed by your elbows? You know, sometimes it might be good to just lift your earpieces so you've got some awareness of what's going on outside, even at the cost of some of that audio fidelity. We need more power. That aging graphics card you have, it's getting you down? Well, prepare for things to get much worse in VR. You need a reasonably modern PC in order to play most sim games in VR. And if you're looking at Assetto Corsa Competizione, things only get worse. To get the most out of your experience, you're going to need a monster PC to drive it, especially so if you're looking at one of the modern headsets like the Reverb G2. Motion sickness. Not something that personally affects me, but I know many racers out there that can't do more than an hour of racing before their sea legs start to buckle. If you've never experienced anything with motion in VR, then you might want to try out someone else's setup first. Nothing is worse than motion sickness to ruin that lovely rig you just bought yourself. Field of view. You might not notice your tunnel vision when you're in your headset in games like Beat Saber, but strap yourself into that virtual car and your limitations become a little more obvious. Didn't see that car on your right because the window was out of view? It happens. And that is why many sim racers are happy to grab some of the more costly headsets out there, because they offer a wider viewing experience. They don't completely eliminate the issue though, but I found over time that you adapt to this limitation. It's still a very real consideration, especially when you first pick up VR. The dreaded screen door. The Reverb G2 is getting to that point now where we no longer consider that we're staring through a screen door. But for most of us, we're still looking at chunky pixels. When a car is up close, things aren't too bad. But when it disappears in the distance, good luck trying to read its number plate. It doesn't detract too much from the heat of battle, but when you see a car a few seconds up the road, it breaks that immersive feel when it just looks like a few dozen pixels. Cost. Yeah, I don't see this as a problem in VR anymore. You can pick up a decent headset for the price of a small gaming monitor. Your average super wide or triple setup is likely to cost you more than VR. So I've sold you on the life of isolation and immersive driving? Well, then I guess we should talk about what your options are. There are many options, and most of them will give you a good experience, but I'll call out a few of what I see as the standout players for you in each arena. So we kind of have three main spaces here. We have the OpenVR/Steam VR native headsets. We have Oculus's space, and we also have Windows mixed reality. So I'll go through each of those, starting with Steam VR. Almost all PCVR options are Steam VR compatible, and with good reason for that. Most gamers have their collections in Steam. There are native Steam VR headsets out there, such as the Valve Index, HTC Vive, HTC Vive Pro, and Pimax 5K. They're all in the mix, they've all sold a lot of units. The Valve Index takes my crown in this space. It's kind of the standout player for me. It doesn't have the best display or widest field of view out there of all the players, but it comfortably ticks all those boxes with build quality to die for. It's a lot less likely to let you down than a Pimax. The biggest downside for anyone looking at this option is having to place base stations. If you are only playing sitting down sims, you can get away with a single unit, and if your play space is permanent, it isn't a big issue. But if you need to move it around, say you want to play in the front room and you only have one or two base stations, it does become a chore having to set them up again constantly. Next up, we have Oculus. Perhaps one of the most well-known and best value for money providers of VR units. An Oculus-derived unit is certainly worth a look in the budget to mid-range space. The newer units have inside-out tracking, which means no base stations. They have great displays, and in the case of things like the Quest 2, you also can use it wirelessly, albeit for a limited period of time. Compromises are afoot though, and you will be locked into the Oculus way of doing things. The forced Facebook account is looming. Soon you will only have that as an option. Build quality can be a little suspect at times. I believe that's to get the price point down on those units. Tracking can be a little glitchy, especially if you don't have sufficient light for the cameras to see your location. With Oculus recently announcing the death of the Rift family of devices, if you are looking towards the future of the Oculus space, then your only real option is the Quest 2. If you don't care about the Rift S being discontinued, you can still pick them up pretty cheaply. In the UK, that's around £300. As someone that went from the CV1 and Vive to the Rift S, and then now I'm on the Valve Index, I can tell you the step between the Index and the Rift S is not so big. It's probably not worth spending almost double the money to get an index unless you really want that extra 5 to 10 degrees of FOV. Finally, we have Windows Mixed Reality. Here be dragons. Whilst I haven't had the opportunity to interface with WMR myself, I have heard some tales of being a little awkward to set up, especially when you are playing Steam VR games. If you don't mind the faff and are only looking for a headset for racing, then one of the best options on the market right now is the HP Reverb G2. It has audio and lenses that have been made in cooperation with Valve, and it has a screen to die for. So, final words then. Overall, there is no perfect solution out there. VR comes with many compromises, as I've mentioned earlier in this video. But if you want to feel like you're in the cockpit of your virtual car and don't have the space or money to realize it in your play space, then VR is pretty much the only option you have. It is a good option. Again, it does have compromises and it will come at some cost. But I think it's worth it. So if you've liked this video, please give it the thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. And take a look at these videos that come up in a sec. Goodbye for now.